Hey everybody, welcome to Cruising with Dad and
Adventures with Cactus.
So you get a double deal today. We're going to go on an excursion.
We're going on a walking tour.
A walking tour. We're in Jacksonville and we're going to go, where are we going?
We are going on the top to bottom tour, which tours downtown Jacksonville and shows you very many historic places and places that even people here have been here. How long? How long have you been here?
All my life.
Okay, he's what, 60?
Let's just put it this way, yeah, over 60 years.
I'm 38, and I've seen this place once. He's been here 60, he's never seen it.
Oh.
So, that tells you a lot.
So, our first actual adventure together. So, I'm not sure what you're going to see. I don't know what we're going to get into.
Oh.
We may need a lawyer or a bail bondsman, but it's a beautiful day. So, we're on our way, and we will see you later.
I'll see you guys.
So, first, alright, we just walked a little weird part way down there. So we're in the hub of the JTA, the Jacksonville Transit Authority's bus depot, where you can catch a bus to wherever the bus goes. I'm sure they have a map. They got a map of where the bus goes. They're inside. Okay, inside is maps to show you what bus to take, what number, what line, whatever. And I think we get to ride the metro, or whatever it's called here, which doesn't go very far. It doesn't go out into the suburbs. It's basically just downtown. Well, we might get some of that. So we'll see you guys here in a minute. All right, this is the map of where the Skyway goes. Basically downtown. Like I said before, it doesn't go to the stadium, it doesn't go to the airport. And yeah, not like you would expect in a town this small, but that's what we got, and we're gonna ride it. We're gonna go that way, which would be, let's see, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go this way, right near some Omni, right? Where we're going?
Yeah.
Yep.
We're going to Central Station.
Central Station. Here comes our tram. We're gonna ride to the next destination. Not very big. Not very fast. That's good. I like early. You see how small it is, so you can tell that there's not very many people that are making lots of noise.
Jefferson Station.
Jefferson Station.
Industrial thing. Now it's just an office building. But it's very historic.
get off the tram. And we're downtown. You can see the big buildings.
See an old friend of mine?
Sure, why not? Alright, you gotta slow down though. Matt's running to his destination. Slow down.
I will go through this entrance.
Inside the Marriott. Someplace I'll probably never stay.
This way.
Okay.
So, that.
Very nice, very
Their
nice.
Arboretum. Also.
Alright, when's the last time you saw something like this? Wow, all the equipment to shine your shoes.
Still there. Now, let's go see if my friend is upstairs.
Tours of Jacksonville, Amelia Island, St. Augustine. I'm all over the place. I do over 100 different tours. So it's fair game to ask me any questions today about the culture of Jacksonville. To start off, why am I dressed like this? I'm dressed like General Andrew Jackson, who the city's made. So he was a great general. Other than that, the Americans dress. That's why I have fancy hat like this. And my hat is called a chapeau. And chapeau means hat in French. The officers would carry their hats. Now, anytime you saw a statue or a painting of officers from a period, they're typically holding their hats. Napoleon Bonaparte wore his like this. The American officers wear theirs like this. But to my surprise, when I had this professionally made, I didn't realize that the hats were very functional. Notice my hat, which I actually have little ties around it right now, so that it doesn't come unclipped. But functionally speaking, you can unclip your hat and be like right inside. So you never saw the officers. We're always wearing our hats or holding. Now, last year's a very special year for us. We're a bicentennial here in Jacksonville. So I actually congratulate the Hearts. I gave bicentennial in the original 20 blocks of Jacksonville. So Jacksonville started out just being 20 blocks. The city founded right there, Park right here. And we've grown 41 square miles. New York City, Chicago, and Denver all over. So we actually won't be walking today in the original 20 blocks because it's just a little bit over to the east. But as part of the tour, I always pass things around to people. So I'll pass these around as we start walking. And what you'll notice when you look at these, the original 20 blocks, there's a squiggly line going right through the center here. It's the old Kings Road back in the 1700s. And Kings Road came down and crossed. Today it would be where Liberty Street is. It had a ferry boat, the ferry people crossed. But that's where the Cowford was. So when Jacksonville gets laid out, Isaiah Park starts at the Cowford, the place where the cows would cross the river, those narrow point St. John's River. Florida's big cattle country. They wait for low tide. The cows would swim across to right there. So that's the land that Isaiah Hart wanted. He got it from a guy named Moses. And that's where he starts the town. So I'll pass that around. One on each side. inside. Any questions before we get started? We have quite a few buildings to get into today as part of the tour. Actually, most of the tour will actually be inside today because we'll be going in and out of buildings. We do have a big group, so I do ask that we stay together because we all have to cross the road and stuff like that. Try and do it with a single light change. All right, well, let's go ahead and start walking. Follow me this way.
USS Orlando. Yes, it is.
I want you to see it, so you'd be better off to stand over here. So, when I first started doing tours of Jacksonville, I was like, what am I going to do here with this city? You know, what stands out to me more than anything? And it was the architecture. I looked at it and said, all these buildings are all different shapes, and I got to figure out a little story with each one. So, that TIAA Bank building that you see, if you notice there on that south side, it has a jagged edge to it, doesn't it? Well, the north side has also got a jagged edge to it. Any guesses why you'd have a building with jagged edges? Sound? Wind? Yeah, that's most common what people think. And I asked the architect, I said, why did you design a building with jagged edges on each side? And he said, Gary, the requirement was to have lots of corner offices. So we designed the building, each floor has 16 corners to it. So quite a few corner offices, lots of views from there. Follow me this way. So proud of our Jaguars going as far as they did this year. So this statue here, there are 4 of them in the United States, 4 replicas. So one here in Jacksonville. Any guesses where the other 3 are?
Nashville.
Nashville. Yes, Nashville.
New Orleans.
Jackson was from the Tennessee area up around Nashville is where the Hermitage his house is. So one up there. Yep. One in New Orleans. That's where he was the hero during the War of 1812 at the Battle of New Orleans. Maybe you remember that Johnny Horton song in 1814, we took a little trip. Guess you gotta be a little older to know that one. But the other one, in case somebody said it, I don't know, anybody say Washington, D.C.? So the other one's right across from our White House in Washington, D.C. Since the sun is in our eyes on this side, I'll do more talking on the other side of the statue. Come this way. Fargo building. Built in 1974 as the Independent Life Building. When it was built, it was the tallest building in all of Florida. And where's my buddy Matthew at?
Yes, sir.
So Matthew is saying, hey Gary, I heard that there was an underground locomotive engine, one of those train engines underneath this building. And where is it? What's the story behind it? And I had heard that as well, that there was something underneath the building. And it didn't really make sense to me because the parking garage for this building is 2 stories underground. So it's like one big complicated boat. Underground, because you're so close to the river here, the parking garage 2 stories puts it under the water. So you got water all the way around it. And I'd heard there was a locomotive engine under here. It's like, how does that make sense? How do you get a locomotive engine 3 stories underground? Makes no sense to me. Well, then I met one of the owners of the original Independent Life. Bryan family, and I said, you gotta tell me the story. Is there a locomotive engine underneath this building, and where is it? And he told me the story. He says, Gary, when we were building this in 1974, the first thing that they do is they sink those footers down in as part of the foundation. And they hit something down there. What? What's down there? Not supposed to be anything down there. So they dig around. Turns out it is a locomotive engine. Railroad locomotive engine now. So they had a meeting and they decide to keep quiet. Not tell anyone. Because if word got out that there's a locomotive engine under the ground here, construction would have stopped, people would have come in, maybe they want to haul it on out of there. Maybe things would have stopped for months. They lost tens of thousands of dollars. So they decided not to tell anyone. Cover it back up. However, it was where they were going to place the building. So what they did was they moved the building 10 feet to the north. That's why on the north side there is no sidewalk up there. They don't have a sidewalk. So I've actually done it with groups where we've marched off how far it is from the road up to this side of the building and from the building to the other side of the road. And it's a 10 feet difference. So that's what they did. They moved the building. So that's the story that I know. So where is that locomotive engine? It's right over here.
It's
Right
under
over
us?
here. Right over here underneath us. Yep, is where it is. So, one more story before we move on. Now to locals, this is going to all make sense to you, I think. You've wondered this for many years and all, and this story now will just bring it all together for you. If you look on this side of the statue, it says first governor of Florida, right? And Jackson technically was a provisional governor. He was sent out here to do a particular job. Really the first governor of Florida for a whole term and everything was a guy named William Hope Duval. It's where Duval County comes from. Well, we got Duval Street right here in downtown. So, Jackson was sent down to Pensacola, Florida, to make sure the Spanish leave. That's what his job was. So, there's a treaty with Spain, the Adams-Onis Treaty. In 1821, and Jackson goes down to Pensacola with that purpose of making sure the Spanish leave. And once they leave, in fact, he never stepped foot in Jacksonville. Once they leave, he's like he's done his job, right? That's what he was sent there to do. He gets on his horse, he's going back to Tennessee. He's going back to his wife Rachel. He don't want to spend any more time in Florida. He doesn't have to. And he's galloping away. And they yell to him. They go, General Jackson! Who's gonna take your place as the next governor? And he stops his horse, and he turns around, and he says, Duval! Well, now you know. And you can see. But I want you to be able to see these two photographs here. This way you'll see what I'm talking about. Yep, there's more room down here. If you want to maybe get another photo here. All right.
Come see you.
Okay, good. So what the photographer Paul Nichols did was he found an old photograph like this one, and he went back to that same exact location, took photographs so he can match them up exactly and see the changes in Jacksonville over that period of time. These are changes in about 100 years. Now when he took this photograph in 2010, it's already outdated because Jacksonville Landing is all right there, and that's not there anymore. But if you look at the old 1913 photograph, the building that we're into right now is this building right here. And if you look, it is the tallest building in the skyline. So we're down in the basement of that building right now. I call it the old Atlantic National Bank building because the Atlantic National Bank isn't here anymore. So this is an old 1909 bank building. And not only was it the tallest in Jacksonville, but it was the tallest in all of Florida when it was built. So now maybe you're thinking, well, why don't I see it in this photograph? Well, it's behind the taller buildings right there. So a few buildings in the old photograph are still around. This Bisbee building is still here, part of the Laura Street trio that I'll mention when we get back outside again. Our churches are still here. The Immaculate Conception Church, you see that there. If you look at the bridge, this railroad bridge here and this railroad bridge, how many people think it's the same bridge? How many people think it's a different bridge? It's actually a different bridge, and you got to look closely at it because it's in the same exact spot and architecturally looks the same, except there's one major difference, and that's the drawbridge piece to it. This is the old Henry Flagler Bridge from back in the 1800s. How the boats got through is this center span there rotated. It got replaced in 1925 by this bridge, and obviously it goes up as to allow the boats to go through. Any questions at all about old Jacksonville here? We good? Okay, we're going to slide down. I know it's going to be really hard to see these with such a big group, but I'm going to mention these two photographs here about the old banks. So I'll have you come down a little bit now. Kind of still see it in the distance there a little bit. So you can look, it's of the same exact corner. This is the Florida National Bank, this is the Barnett Bank, this is the Atlantic National Bank building. This is the building we're into right now. So how does that compare? I'm going to put you inside the vault. Remember, I'll swap the two groups out. So you're up here, you're going to see some old scrapbooks and things like that. Best not to touch those scrapbooks.
He told me to.
Yeah, they're all very fragile.
He told me to.
You can look at them, of course. Always getting in trouble like that. There will be some things I will share with you all. But I'm gonna talk in the middle here, and then I'll swap the two groups out and all. So what you're looking at in this room, of course, is this big giant vault door. That vault door will close. I'm inside the vault right here. What you'll eventually see up here is all the old safe deposit boxes and all the emergency drinking water cans that I'll tell a story about. But this old vault, put in 1909 as the foundation of the building, put in by this new old safe and lock company. Can't know how. Well, I called them up on the phone. I said, hey, what can you tell me about this old bank vault? What can you tell me about this old bank vault? And they said, well, Gary, we don't have any records of that vault. We can't find any records of it. However, we got a photograph of the workers back in 1909. They used that. And they sent it to me, and I flew it up and put it on the wall right there. So those are the workers back in 1909. And you can tell that that vault and this one are from the same period. It's not the same vault. Either that or those guys are 3 feet tall. That was probably like the biggest vault that they had built during the day or something like that. And they kept throwing a photo there. But this is so amazingly made. It's like a piece of artwork here. And it's so well balanced that I can just take a finger and I can move it. So incredibly balanced this is. So up here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the safe deposit boxes, and I'm going to pass these around. And you're welcome to take pictures of the other side here. Move this just a little bit here. So I'm going to pass them around some contents from Mr. Merrill's safe deposit box. Oh, did they? So everyone watch your step coming up inside the vaults here. And you notice these safe deposit boxes, they're quite ornate. And look at how big they are exactly. I mean, they're so big because you think about it, everything was made out of paper back then. So they needed big bomb. They needed bomb shelter. Any other questions at all? They're all filled with water. Yeah, blocked off because it goes to another building torn down that was on this corner. So, corner should look somewhat familiar to you here. You got the Atlantic National Bank, this is where the old Barnett was, and then the Florida National Bank over here. You're talking about their underground vaults before. They have two big underground vaults there. Well, the story behind why the old building got torn down here was the culture changes in the United States come the mid-1950s. Because now, you have the new trend is to have a drive-thru. You get to stay in your car, order food. Stay in your car, order food, like McDonald's. Also, stay in your car, do your banking. Wow, that was new. That was the new trend. So this old Barnett Bank building from the 1800s that was here on this corner, they didn't have a drive-thru. They had no way to have a drive-thru. So they said, what are we gonna do? And somebody said, well, we got an underground, maybe we'll use that. So right here on this corner where I'm standing is where the Jack in the Box teller popped up from the underground. People pulled up, did their banking. At the end of the day, went back underground again. So this is pictures of the Jack in the Box teller. So they did that for about 6 years and they said enough of that. We're going to tear down the old building and we'll build a new one which will have multiple drive-thrus. So as we walk down you'll see there's big wide bays here for cars that picture cars during the day would drive in one side, drive out the other side. So it was built to have multiple drive-thrus.
That's crazy.
Now I had wondered for the longest time what they did over there, and did they do anything over there at the Florida National Bank building? And I had remembered being underneath that building, seeing those old two big old vaults, and then there was a tunnel that came towards the street and went about 30 feet to the edge of the road. And I marched it off, all that, and I'm like, why do you have a tunnel that goes to the edge of the street? And it didn't have any other side rooms off of it. I didn't think it was all connected with this building over here. Why would you have a tunnel that came to the street? So, this was just a couple of months ago. I'm in the Historical Society, Jacksonville Historical Society archives, and I'm looking through on things on the Atlantic, or on the Florida National Bank. And I come across a brochure from the late 1950s, early 60s. And the brochure was about the Snorkel Teller Station. So, I'll pass these around. There's a picture of what the driver in the car, the customer would see when they pulled up. The other picture down below, the subterranean picture underground, shows what the teller saw looking through the periscope. So, it answered my question why that tunnel went to nowhere. Well, it went to someplace, to the Snorkel Teller Station underground. So that's how they solved their problem.
Yep. He didn't tell me about the snorkel one, but...
Any questions at all before we move on to the next building? Yeah.
So Matt says you didn't tell this the last time.
The
That's right. I told you it'd be a couple of new stories.
So when you're not here, are you researching like all sorts of stuff?
Oh, you can come to the tour year to year, and it might be a little different, with different stops and all. Absolutely. I'm a historian. I studied the stuff. If I find a better story than what I was telling before, I tell that one.
Are those buildings being restored, or what's going on with them?
So, the Laura Street Trio are the three buildings across the street. When we walk a little bit further down, there's an artist rendering of what that's going to be. But the two high-rise buildings will be a boutique Marriott hotel, with some retail down on the ground floor. This building on the corner will be a restaurant. So phase one of this project was to build a parking garage. They just finished the parking garage over there.
Do we know what restaurant's gonna go in there?
Last I heard it was going to be a steakhouse, but I don't know.
How much longer are we gonna wait for that?
I don't know.
Yeah, you know how long they've been
I
abandoned?
don't know.
Yeah, a
It's
long
been in the
time.
plans for a long time, so. Yeah.
What's this little building over on the other side? It's got an interesting facade.
Yes, today it's a bank building. Different banks have been in it, but it's another building that was built by a guy named Bisbee. He was the owner, and what's unique about that building is the architecture of it. In Wayne Wood's Architectural Heritage book, he calls it German Renaissance style, and that is one of two buildings that we have in downtown that have gables. So if you look up on the roof line of it, you know, those shapes up on the roof line, those are gables. So we don't have many buildings with that European style with gables in it. Yep. Hotel. When we walk up the stairs, you'll see there's like a big hole here. Somebody's standing here for such a long time. The bellman would have said, "Welcome to the Carling," and stepped down and grabbed their bags and carried them up the stairs to where you would have checked in to the old hotel. So a little bit more eye candy upstairs. I'll tell a story upstairs. Follow me this way. Historic preservation in Jacksonville. Instead of tearing down the old building, saved it, repurposed it. So today, they have taken the 300 hotel rooms, the old hotel rooms, and made it into 100 luxury apartments. So there's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom apartments here. They have their own parking garage that connects to the building on the north side there. This is all function space for the people that live here.
What's the rent?
So I looked it up one time. It was about $1,800 for a 2-bedroom per month, something like that. Pretty good price compared to other cities, that is for sure. Now, one more quick story before we move on. A little bit of a marketing story. And this was built by the Dinkler Hotel Company of Atlanta. So they had a hotel company of Atlanta, built several hotels, wanted to build a hotel down here to the south. So they built this one. And the owner was Mr. Carling Dinkler. So when they built this, they decided to name it after the owner, but name it after his first name and call it the Carling. They thought that was better than his last name, the Dinkler. So a little bit of marketing there. All right, we got 3 more buildings. This was a painting done by a guy named Lee Adams. And Lee Adams had done this, and he was inspired by these old Lemoyne sketches. In fact, there's a room right over there, and it's the Lemoyne Rye room that has pictures or sketches from a book from 1591. The Timucuan Indians and the French and all. And that's what kind of inspired him when he did this mural. So it's really a collection of events. And the French had come to the Jacksonville area. 1562, they planted a colony. And they left. They went up to the South Carolina area. They came back in 1564 and had a settlement in Jacksonville. Anyone know the name of this fort? Fort Caroline. Yeah, it's out into the Arlington area is where we celebrate our French history. It's a free national park to go visit. But the French had a triangular-shaped fort. Settlement, 1564. Jean Ribault had gone back to France to get more supplies for the settlement and all, and he comes back with more men and more supplies. So this is depicting Jean Ribault coming back in 1565. So all of this happened all before St. Augustine. All of this all happened. These events all happened before St. Augustine. In fact, the Spanish came here because they learned the French were in Jacksonville. So the Spanish came with that purpose of defeating the French, establishing a military outpost to protect their treasure ships. They called their military outpost St. Augustine. But all this took place before St. Augustine. So St. Augustine isn't the oldest city. It technically would be the oldest continuous city of European origin. Because the Timucuan Indians were here long before any Europeans were here. They had settlements, they had cities. American Indians had cities all around the U.S. Any questions at all?
Did they ever find their original location, Fort Caroline?
Florida County. So at one time, half of the United States was called Florida. When Ponce de Leon came in 1513 and went around the peninsula, he wasn't calling Florida just around the peninsula that he was at. He was calling where he traveled, also all the land connected to the land where he traveled. He was claiming basically half of the United States as Florida. So there are these old maps.
Those are those elevators. It has to be. No other elevators.
When I looked at it was, I'd heard you came downtown to watch movies, but I look at the street and I say, oh, there's the Republic Theater, and there's the Palace Theater, and there's the Imperial Theater, and the Arcade Theater, and in the distance you have the Florida Theater. There's a bunch of theaters all right there. Then you make a left onto Hogan Street, and then you'll see you're behind the hotel area. Okay? Let's go on inside this building here. But before I tell that story, I'll introduce you to Lauren here, who works here, and she'll tell you all about this spot.
Well, welcome to the Visitor Center. You're in our main one downtown. We also have one out by the beach in the Beaches Museum and one in the Jacksonville International Airport near baggage claim. So we're kind of all over, spread out throughout Jacksonville so that we can give information to people everywhere. Recommendations on things to do, restaurants, hotels to stay at, all that sort of stuff. So it's a fun time, and thanks for being here.
Lauren, we got a good mix of locals. We have some from Michigan, some from Illinois. So good mix of locals and visitors. So the tour will end here. So you can stick around, ask me any questions, ask Lauren any questions. She has maps and things and postcards here. So you could stick around a little bit longer if you wanted to. The story that I like to tell here is a time when we were a very early Hollywood. In fact, we're getting ready to play a movie clip from 1916. So you're going to want to stand so you can see the movie clip. It is quite humorous. And how the motion movie industry starts is really up in New York and New Jersey. And they're filming there, mostly inside studios, because they have such issues with weather and things. So come 1908, there's a company named Callum Pictures, and Callum has a unique idea. And Callum's idea is to go to exotic places around the world and film there. They're going to go on location. They're the first ones to come up with this on location. So where did they go to first in 1908? They went to exotic Jacksonville. So we have this newly rebuilt city after the fires. You got all these fire scenes, or city scenes that you could film. You have a river that could double as rivers around the world. You have jungle scenes. Holy smokes, we got all this jungle stuff that we could film. Old plantation-style houses. You got old bridges. Oh, it's a plethora of scenery that they could take advantage of. And they were very successful, and other companies followed them down here. We had 26 movie companies down here. So our heyday was from our period was 1908, 1918. The heyday was around 1916. So this is a clip you're about to see from 1916, Bouncing Baby. Lauren, please. So read the captions here. They are quite humorous. So the Panhandle boys try out a scheme to get themselves a good home. Well, what's the scheme? The old leave the baby on the doorstep scheme. Now that guy is pretending to be a baby. He's 26 years old, weighs 300 pounds. It's a young Oliver Hardy. Later on, he teamed up with Stan Laurel, and they were the Laurel and Hardy comedy team. So let's see how he does here. Read the captions here. Keep reading. Please care for my little baby. That is the wish of a broken-hearted mother. That's the note. So now watch him try and drag him into the house here. I bet you they didn't practice this too much. They're barely moving him. But he's in. The Panhandle Boys are in. So this movie lasts a whole 16 minutes. Back then you paid your nickel to go to the movie theater. Maybe you would have saw 2 or 3 movies, maybe some live entertainment. Of course, they had piano players inside the music theaters playing music for atmosphere and all. But our motion movie picture industry here lasts about 10 years before they all move out to Hollywood, California. So this house isn't around anymore. It was one of those riverside mansions that was torn down. But there's several chase scenes in this movie. One goes down Forsyth Street, and one is on the rooftop of the St. James building, today is City Hall. That's the ending chase scene up on the rooftop. Now, some people think that is Charlie Chaplin. It's a guy named Billy West, and I think he copied a lot of things that Charlie Chaplin was doing. Oliver Hardy got his start here in Jacksonville. He came down from Harlem, Georgia, and he ended up starting a comedy team in movies, with him being the big guy and then a smaller guy. And so before there was Laurel and Hardy, in Jacksonville there was Plump and Runt. So they started these characters called Plump and Runt, and they did a series of movies with Plump and Runt. Any questions at all for me? Steps of the Great Fire.